If I gave a fuck what y'all think I would be doing this? Welcome to the FMFU podcast, the podcast that's from me, for us. Vulgar but true, real and never fake. I'm your host, Reese, and I've got a lot of shit on my mind today, so let's get into it.
You know, one of my favorite sayings is that it's not about what you're saying, but how you're saying it. I think sometimes we've been saying things in a certain way in a certain context for so long that we've totally changed the meaning of what said saying is. Let's take ASAP, for example. ASAP is an abbreviation for as soon as possible, indicating that a task or action requires high urgency. When I see or hear ASAP, this shit makes me think that it's something that I need to do immediately and everything else needs to be dropped. But if I hear someone say, when is it possible for me to handle this, or can you get this done as soon as possible, I don't get that same urgency. Partly because it's like, who is to determine when it is possible for me to do this for you? Like, what is the baseline of this possible? What if I'm busy as fuck and my possible ain't able to happen to you for a long time? Who is to say that my possible and your possible is aligned? Real fucking random, but true as always. But anyways, happy Friday, people, and welcome to an all-new exciting episode of the From Me For Us podcast. And I hope all of my people up north have been being safe over these past 10 days or so, because y'all got smacked with the blizzard. And honestly, I guess it wasn't even a blizzard. I guess it was called a bomb cyclone. I've never heard of that ever in my life. I had some friends tell me that they got like 40 inches of snow. Schools were shut down for a couple days. Like, shit is crazy as fuck, honestly. I'm glad we didn't have any bomb cyclones in Georgia, but it did get colder than a motherfucker for a couple days, a couple weeks ago. So I'll just say this, I'm over the cold. I'm glad that the weather is actually going to be real fucking nice this weekend, like high 70s, might even crack 80 one day. So I guess if we do want to thank someone for the good weather, I guess we can thank the Pisces for that, you fucking fishies. But moving on, yo, have you seen the trailer for Scary Movie 6? When I tell you, this is probably one of the first movies I have been hyped for in a long fucking time. Part of the fact is because it's the first movie since Scary Movie 2 that's been written by the Wayans brothers. 3, 4, and 5 were just examples of white studio heads trying to replicate the magic of what we're able to produce, as we always produce plenty of black magic. But I mean, think about it. There's reasons why we don't really talk about 3, 4, or 5, or why they really needed to bring them back for number 6 to make everybody get hype and want to be able to sell and check it out and everything like that. You was missing the niggas that originated this shit. But honestly, I seen that trailer. I probably watched that shit about 3 times. It looks like it's about to be fun as fuck. All the OGs and original characters from 1 and 2 are going to be a part of it. I think they're doing parodies for the movies. What would be on there? Get Out, Nope, Sinners, Scream, of course. They got the Terrifier, aka Art the Clown, on that bitch. Megan, Jason, and whoever else. I don't know. This is the type of comedy that, in Marlon Wayne's words, that we're hoping to cancel the cancel culture. And we need this shit back in our lives, man. Because I'll tell you this, like, I'm already seeing tweets of numerous things, and one of I saw that really resonated and made sense to me was that there was a tweet that said, like, there's a whole generation, Gen Z, that if they watch Scary Movie 2, they probably wouldn't even understand the basketball beat reference from back in the day where they were doing the fucking street ball shit making the beat. It's time. The time has come for comedy like this to come back. On the other tweet I'm seeing that in the article is talking about Gen Z is saying that they're offended or whatever the fuck. And honestly, fuck y'all. We don't want any of those fucking think pieces and that sensitive bullshit when it comes to this. Because I'm going to be honest, y'all little bastards ruin everything. I'm sick of it. Go the fuck on somewhere and go listen to some Little Uzi Vert or something. I don't know. But anyways, there's been a lot of shit going on these past couple weeks. A lot of nigga shit. Literally. So at the BAFTAs, Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were on stage receiving their reward for their work for the movie Sinners. Out of nowhere, this guy named John Davison, who has Tourette's and is an advocate for Tourette's, screams out the N-word at them while they're on the stage. Of course, with the state of how the world is, where U.S. presidents are depicting us as apes, and racial tensions are probably the highest it's been in a very long time, This, of course, is just not a good look, as screaming out that word is never a good look. Now, I will say this, though. I try to not fly off the handle when I see articles. I know that we read, whether it's articles, Twitter, status, whatever, and feed off of the negativity because those are the type of headlines that are going to grab people. But um, even as being an objective person and trying to be very understanding of scenarios, like when something like this is said, it's very hard to look past it, even if it is true the Tourette's is what caused this. I will say my objectiveness comes from me being that type of person in general, but also just having a different lens. Because one time I know I sat down and the TV was on one day, and there was this show that came on, and it was about this white girl who has Tourette's. And I won't lie to you. I mean, unless this motherfucker's a hell of an actor, this white girl's what they call tics. Man, they had her. She was going crazy. She was calling her boyfriend little bitch, like Big Sean, and like all kinds of crazy shit. And like I think in like pop culture and in jokes, it's always joke that people who have this condition say like super offensive or random things. And I can get behind, this being a condition and understand it. But what made matters worse in the situation was it wasn't edited out, was what I was reading. And also, I just feel like that there was just a bad excuse of an apology for it. Like after the fact, I mean, nothing was really said. Like after the days following it. And then so like a week later, which was actually about a week ago to this day, there was a quote unquote apology. And it was really for any pain, upset, or misunderstanding that it may have created. I just felt it was very like short-sighted. But at the same time, I do think like, what would we expect this guy to say? I mean, he's a Tourette's activist, and I'm sure he takes ownership of his condition as his superpower or whatever. So of course he preambled his apology by saying, I will never apologize for having Tourette's syndrome. But in this case, my brother, I think you may need to consider that. Calling someone a bitch or saying fuck your mother or any outlandish thing, that's one side of it. But when it comes to racial things being said, like we can't just chalk it to Tourette's and not even take ownership or give a half-ass apology for it. I think it's good to raise awareness for it. That is part of the battle because a lot of people don't do research. And again, we know these headlines are going to be sent out there. And then, we're going to instantly say, I don't give a fuck about no Tourette's. Like, fuck your activism because of what you said. We got to really get better with understanding the full story and context of things. We also have to understand that if you're looking at this on both sides, a lot of people, especially black people, we're not going to just understand what that condition is and or stumble upon that TV show to really, understand what this shit is. Only thing we're going to see in the articles is that some white man said the N-word, period. But I want to say from a positive note, I do commend those two black men up there, turning something negative into a positive because, I mean, shit could have got bad real quick. But as always, we have to be the ones to turn the shoulder, be the bigger person. And that's always been our story and really the plight of the black man. Like, honestly, it's just so much easier to go lower when they go low. But it's also more commendable to keep the professionalism and understand that even if the hood or the black coalition or black Twitter is riding with you for beating up this man because he called you the N-word, I mean, is that really worth potentially losing your good perception with those who you honestly need a little bit to get money? What I'm saying is like, we know in the world of entertainment, like we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go to really get in these positions of power for ownership. And I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to play the game to really get this money from them people. And then once you get the money, because you put yourself in a position, then you can put other people on and establish your own power, your own labels, your own studios, etc. Keeping a squeaky clean image and things like that is what helps that. So that's really when your turn the other cheek does have the benefits. Because let's be real, if he decided to, go down there and do something, the headline wouldn't have been, guy with Tourette's says the N-word. The headline would have been Black Panther, Creed, and Center star Michael B. Jordan beats up British Tourette's activist. So as ignorant as the world is, we know that with that headline and people not understanding the story, there's going to be a gang of people who will just be like, oh, he's wrong. He beat up that activist. Why sacrifice the opportunity to make more money, get more roles, put yourself in positions where you're already working with the Ryan Cooglers of the world who will own the movie centers 25 years after its release, Or, even yourself, where being someone who is able to direct and star in Creed 3, opportunities like that can get taken away, man. So even if you weren't totally in the right to punch this man. So I think the lesson here really is just to do a cost analysis of things, of like, is this action really worth it? You may get respect and credit and get a time and applause on the internet, but the internet's not real. They're not putting money in your pocket. Try to figure out what makes sense to do, whatever you can to keep things in a positive light and in a professional way. Because I tell you one thing, if it was me, it might have not occurred the same way. I'll tell you that. And that would have been fucked up for myself. But you live and you learn. I feel like a lot of things I've been reading over the past couple weeks have been very Atlanta centric. Lil Duval put a tweet out about, if you're black and you don't like Atlanta, it's weird because it's one of the only places that you can make it in a certain way or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing here. And of course, the internet's always divided, but I think I get the point of what he's making, as this is probably one of the only places where you might just run into a random celebrity at Publix. Like, access isn't really inaccessible out here as long as you know the right people. And it kind of blends a little bit differently compared to maybe other cities where you might just not never see anybody. So I totally get what he was saying with that tweet. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, was out here a couple weeks ago as well. And his ass got hit with some controversy because he was talking to a group of people. And the highlights of it was that he was saying he was a 960 stat guy for his SATs. He had dyslexia as a child and was basically saying, like, I'm like you, like I'm no better than you. Without really understanding the optics of it, I know as someone who has worked in corporate companies for a while, an easy way to gain an audience or get people to understand where you're coming from is to really be relatable. Some of these people in these higher positions really aren't all that. It's like that Obama clip that keeps going around where he says, once you sit down, you realize this and you realize that, they just folk. I believe Gavin Newsom was attempting to expound on himself in a similar fashion. We're telling the crowd, like, I don't think I'm better than you. I am not this genius man just because I am the California governor. It may be in bad taste as the city he is in is known as the Black Mecca, but at the same time, I don't even think there was an all-black crowd at this speaking engagement. And if that is true and it was a mixed bag of people, or if it was majority white or blacks were the minority, let's say, at this event, then what the fuck is the controversy even about? Like, I don't really understand. Like, who really cares about that business? Like, what we really need to be having a conversation about was the controversy about another white guy sticking his nose in Atlanta culture business.
It's the FMFU podcast, bitch.
So on Monday, March 16th, the Atlanta Hawks are playing a home game against the Orlando Magic. And to go with the theme, they are hosting a Magic City Monday night. Now I know what some of y'all are thinking. They gonna have strippers at the basketball game? Nah, not exactly, but let me break down what this actually includes. And to be fair, I'm about to read directly from NBA.com. So let me pull this up. All right. So via NBA.com, they say the Atlanta Hawks today announced a special one-night collaboration to celebrate the city's iconic cultural institution, Magic City, during the team's home game against Orlando on Monday, March 16th. As part of the celebration, the Hawks have worked with Magic City to bring the best of the phenomena for fans in attendance at the award-winning State Farm Arena. The Hawks, who were recognized last season as the NBA's best overall game entertainment, have tapped legendary rapper and Atlanta's own T.I. to perform some of his well-known tracks at halftime, presented by Jack Daniels. The organization has also teamed up with the coolest DJ in the world, DJ Esco, who also serves as a Landmark's resident DJ on Mondays to curate pregame music. Magic City Kitchen will serve two versions of their world-famous lemon pepper wings, Lou Will Lemon Pepper Barbecue and traditional lemon pepper. Fans interested in purchasing wings can visit sections 114, 120, and 211. Two of State Farm's arena's all-inclusive premium experiences, Harris Cherokee Casinos Club and Players Club, will both, they'll have the wings. From the food to the music and the exclusive merchandise, we are excited to team up with Magic City to create an authentic, true to Atlanta-inspired game experience, said Hawks Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer Melissa Proctor. As part of this collaboration, the Hawks shop has teamed up with Magic City to release a limited edition Peachtree themed hoodie. Across the front in the bold text are the words Magic City in peach, and on the sleeves are the Hawks logo and the Peach logo. This new retail item will be available only at the Hawks shop in State Farm Arena and online at hawkshop.com starting Monday, March 16th. We doing this one for the city, Magic City, said T.I. Yo, call me hood, ratchet, or whatever you want. But shit like this is why, even before moving down here, I always have, and we all need to continue to protect Atlanta at all costs, because nothing like this is probably happening anywhere else in fucking America. So, I mean, clearly I think this shit is fire. I mean, who doesn't want to get some fucking lemon pepper Lou Will while watching the game? And T.I. performing at halftime? Man, those tickets to get in them game, I think were originally like $10 a piece. Man, them joints jumped to like $100 like the next day. I think this is an amazing play. Not just from my, you ratchet POV, but also just from a business POV as well. You know, you playing, it's on a Monday, the Magic coming in town, everybody knows about wings, you got T.I., he's on fire. Good business move, right? Right. Well, apparently the NBA player Luke Cornett doesn't feel the same way because he wants this shit banned. Yo, this dude wrote an article on the Medium asking the Hawks to cancel the promo night because it's with Magic City. Now, let me pull this up. Let me read this shit to y'all. This week, the Atlanta Hawks announced a special one-night collaboration to celebrate the city's iconic cultural institution, Magic City, during the team's home games against Orlando on Monday, March 16th. In his press release, the Hawks failed to acknowledge that this place is, as the business itself boasts, Atlanta's premier strip club. Given the fact, I would like to respectfully ask that the Atlanta Hawks cancel this promotional night with Magic City. The NBA should desire to protect and esteem women, many of whom work diligently every day to make this the best basketball league in the world. We should promote an atmosphere that is protective and respectful of the daughters, wives, sisters, brothers, and partners that we know and love. Allowing this night to go forward without protest would reflect poorly on us as an NBA community, specifically in being complicit in the political objectification and mistreatment of women in our society. Regardless of how a woman finds her way into the adult entertainment industry, many in this space experience abuse, harassment, and violence to which should never be subjected. I'd like to encourage the league, its owners, employees, and fans to hold the Atlanta Hawks to a higher standard of what they find worthy of promoting. I, and others throughout the league, were surprised by and object to the Hawks' decision. We desire to provide an environment where fans of all ages can safely come and enjoy the game of basketball, and where we can celebrate the history and culture of communities in good conscience. The celebration of a strip club is not conduct aligned with that vision. Please join me in petitioning the Atlanta Hawks to cancel this promotion so as to ensure that the NBA remains a safe, respectful, and welcoming environment for everyone involved. Now, let me tell y'all something. This is an example of white people not minding their fucking business and staying in their lane. This dude don't even play for the Hawks. He don't play for the Orlando Magic. He plays for the fucking San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs. The Spurs. They not in the same conference. They not in the same division. They not no rivals. They not in the same time zone. They not in the same state. They not even fucking neighbor states. They have no relation. There's a fucking median on there too when I'm reading that shit talking about get Luke Cornett stories in your inbox. I don't give a fuck about no Luke Cornett stories. Just send me a 10-piece of them wings. Again, example of white people being in black people's businesses. Now, maybe I'm a little too far by saying black people's business because the Hawks, although in a black city, they're not owned by like the people, right? But you get my point. It's a collaboration based on a place that is a staple of the city. So I'm going to call it black business. Now, there is one argument I've been seeing that's been going around about, well, the NBA has signed off on this, not the city of Atlanta. And he plays for the NBA, so he has a right. Quite frankly, I don't give a fuck about nothing he got to say. And I especially don't give a fuck that Al Horford, old Dominican ass nigga on the Golden State Warriors, by the way, is retweeting Cornette's tweets, agreeing with the stance. Fuck out of here, Horford, old ass nigga. I think the problem with this is not only the butting into the business of it, but also we pick and choose what we want to complain about. We've got DraftKings, all this alcohol, all this shit that we promote with these leagues, right? But then you want to put these fucking 1-800 numbers at the bottom talking about gambling problem? Call this number. You think the fucking gambling addict is going to call that fucking number at the bottom if he's a fucking gambling addict? Then wonder why niggas is cheating and Rozier and them getting hit because y'all introduced the gambling and partnering and shit and niggas with parlays and shit. Ain't nobody fucking condemning that. Pick and choose. But the other thing outside of that too, which I look at this even bigger than basketball. I read up on Cornette because every time, I try to think about people and who they are with their character, right? And when I looked them up, one of the highlighted things I kept seeing was that he is a devout Christian and a member of the Knights of Columbus. First of all, any white man that I hear, when I hear that shit and they say devout Christian, usually it has something. Usually they loony as fuck. Think about the Harrison Butler conversation, right? When he was talking about women belong in the kitchen and all this old school whatever shit. We can't just use religion to excuse everything. They were lynching niggas back in the day in the name of Jesus. We supposed to really care what this motherfucker got to say? I know I don't. And this Knights of Columbus shit. That's another thing. Devout Christian, Knights of Columbus. Anytime I hear Columbus outside of like Columbus, Ohio, I think of this fucking sketchy. You know what Columbus represented back in the day, although the story is told differently to children. So, in my curious brain, because I do remember one of these clubs back in a town in Ohio called Lorraine, there was a Knights of Columbus. You could rent it out for parties. I'm a young kid at the time. I don't know what the fuck that is. So I've seen this shit come up and I'm like, what the hell is the Knights of Columbus? So I pulled this directly from their website. And it says that since 1882, the Knights of Columbus has empowered Catholic men to put their faith into action, building stronger families, stronger parishes, and stronger communities. When 29-year-old Father Michael McGivney founded the Knights of Columbus in 1882, he knew what hardships and pressures these husbands and fathers, mostly poor immigrant Catholics, faced. A culture with deep mistrust of the Catholic community, often dangerous working conditions. Membership organizations that promised social benefits and mutual aid became with strong anti-Catholic biases. The burden of knowing that their death would likely leave their families penniless and at risk of being separated. At the time, Christopher Columbus was widely lionized in American culture. Despite being a Catholic, Father McGivney proposed him as a model for these first knights who sought to hold on to their Catholic faith and identify in the new world. So basically, this motherfucker is part of a global Catholic fraternity service order founded by the blessed Michael J. McGivney, and the membership is limited to practicing Catholic men. So we're going to listen to this nigga's church fraternity ass, knowing what the fuck Columbus ass stood for, and how he colonized and brought over all the fucking diseases from Europe and shit. Man, fuck Luke Cornette. Wings and T.I. halftime show songs for everybody, nigga. Speaking of T.I., man, there's been a lot of conversation about T.I. over these past few weeks. Mostly started with the original Versuz debate of T.I. versus Lil Wayne. I've been kind of back and forth on this, but really just to give my personal opinions. Looking at what Versuz has been in that hypothetical scenario, as much as I have Wayne in like my top 5, I do believe that T.I. probably does have the better quality albums, and I feel like Versuz has been mostly based on your albums. I probably would have T.I. winning that battle. Wayne to me don't have that really great albums front to back. Um, the mixtape Wheezy was an error with the freestyles, but I just don't think that shit's gonna cut it in the verses. Uh, if they threw in features, which I know some people did, like Luda threw in the "Made You Look" remix feature when him and Nelly was doing it. Maybe that could change some things, right? But if I'm really just thinking pound for pound, your song, album, etc., um, I gotta go Ti versus Wayne. But that was realistically just the prelude to what's really been happening, because the bigger story that's been going on really is this Ti versus 50 Cent shit. And I will say this: the internet hasn't really been that divided. The majority of what I've been seeing, outside of maybe a select few, is that they saying Ti would get that nigga. I think it also doesn't really help the fact that him and his sons have performed a fucking family kamehameha on 50 Cent with diss tracks, and 50 has yet to reply. Which at this point I don't think he's going to. I don't think he ever was. Um, Part of that reasoning for the beef and the issue was because they originally agreed that they were going to do it. I think 50 backed out. Then he started, throwing subs and, trolling and shit. And then that's when them niggas all just went crazy and Kamehameha that nigga. It's a family. But I will say it would have been nice though, man. It would have been real interesting to see 50 pull out, the tracks and do a versus, because I think even if you think about Get Rich or Die Trying, top album, I think that can go pound for pound with most of Ti's work. Outside of that, I think Ti would have him on his other projects, which would probably pull him forward for the win. But if we are doing features, that would help, because 50's verse on How We Do, he played that. I'm probably gonna pick that over almost anything Ti playing. I don't know. I think it's one of them things though that I'm really concluding though, is that like I think Ti is a very underrated artist. I think when it comes down to the top, what we want to call them, like old school, newer rappers. Like I'm thinking old school. I'm thinking like 80s and 90s. So I guess most of the motherfuckers I was rapping in like the early 2000s, they pushing 50 now. So I'm calling them kind of old school in a way. But let's think like the 02 to 08 run type rappers. Um, Honestly, bar wise and song wise and quality wise, he probably at least always been top five. Even if I don't think about that for my personal all time, or a lot of people what they really think about, they probably don't include him. But realistically, he probably is top five, at least top five. Like seriously. I will say Urban Legend is probably one of my favorite albums of all time, and that shit has aged very fucking well. He started off with a super 4P of singles on that bitch, from the fucking King intro, Motivation, You Don't Know Me, and then ASAP. Man, those are highly produced fucking singles. Like you're just not getting shit like that no more. And that run by itself is why I'd be like, damn, that's just on one album. So I feel like that would really make it tough for 50, because man, that's a run. And I'm not even counting the joints that weren't singles. Get Loose, all that other shit. It'd be fire. But it would be fun, man. I wish 50 would get out of his, trolling bag and just say, let's do it one time. And they can go back and forth between Urban Legend and King and Get Rich and a couple Massacre joints and whatever else, because Get Rich was definitely one of my top albums as well. And I think it goes without saying based on how much it sold and the impact it's had in the culture from '03, I think, when it dropped. So it would be nice. But at this point, man, this shit's a pipe dream. This shit ain't gonna happen. Niggas is dissing wives and talking crazy, and Ti actually really from the streets out. That nigga might really try to do something to that man. So I don't see this shit going down no more. But it would have been nice. But hey, we'll see how it goes.
Thanks for listening to the FMFU podcast. Follow me on Facebook at FMFU Experience. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at FMFU_experience. Also check me out on Twitch for some Warzone action at ReesePup007. Remember people, life is a series of choices. Just make sure you make the right one. Peace.